Say goodbye to the hottest Alfa, at least temporarily. 2024 is the final year to get a fully gas-powered Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio. The next one will have some sort of electric motor in its powertrain. That is, if there is a next one. Alfa only sold 6,800 cars in the United States this year, making the future of the company's presence uncertain. Despite being rear-wheel drive only, the Alfa is inexplicably only 100 pounds lighter than an M3 xDrive. BMW's all-wheel drive helps Germany's most famous sports sedan beat Italy's Clover in every performance measurement: acceleration, grip, braking, you name it. So why would you buy one of these? I'll tell you why. About 100 years ago, in 1923, Alfa driver Ugo Savocci won the Targa Florio in a car that had the four-leaf clover painted on it. And a few months later, sadly, he died testing a car that did not. Thus, a tradition was born. All Alfa race cars had the four-leaf clover painted on the fender. That is why this has it today. That exciting little plant. Some might think Alfa needs luck. They've tried and failed in the United States quite a number of times. They came back, obviously, a couple of years ago. This car has been out for almost 10. But something that stood out to all of us was that the driving dynamics of the cars, whether it was the Giulia TI, the Quad, the Stelvio, they were all pretty good. They had that commonality. Yeah, they're a little behind on electronics and technology and gizmos and things like that. But for so many of us, the love of cars comes from driving and how they feel and how they talk to us. And that is something that all the screens in the world and all the active dampers and all the active rear steer this and that cannot replicate. The engine is a 2.9-liter twin-turbo 90-degree V6, and it continues to support my theory that the smaller the V6, the better it sounds. Yes, I am looking at you, 350Z owners. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Good car, bad sound. 505 horsepower, 443 pound-feet of torque. Power goes through a ZF 8-speed transmission, the same one you get in a number of BMW products. It's even down to the shift lever. Where the BMW M3 feels like it has underrated its horsepower, this feels like it's spot on. It's also 80 degrees today and we're at altitude, so it's not going to be the fastest thing in the world. But even at sea level, it just felt like it was making the 500 it promised, not 600 like some of the Germans tend to. While the transmission is a little bit slower than a DCT, it does two things I like and that not all automatic transmissions do. One, it will give me the gear if there is room. There are some cars we've driven where even if a downshift would still have 500 RPM to redline, or even 1,000, the car doesn't want to do it. The car won't let you downshift. Sometimes we have to go slow down until we have 2,000 to 3,000 RPMs of room, which is just silly and infuriating. The second is these paddles. Aluminum, huge, fixed. They are fixed on the column. They don't move with the wheel. But they're large enough where even if I'm in the middle of a corner and if I wanted to shift, I could grab them. They feel good. They feel expensive. And the boost hits, power is made way up top. You've got to wait for the turbos to hit. 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, quarter mile in just over 12. Both numbers are a full second behind the BMW M3 xDrive. Yes, that car has all-wheel drive, but these cars are priced the same. They start at $83,000. But despite all those deficiencies, I think it's actually more fun to drive. The steering ratio is really quick. It's 11.8 to 1. And most importantly, it is a fixed ratio. It is not a variable ratio like BMW and so many other companies use. I understand why they use it. It means you don't have to turn the wheel a lot. either when you're going slow or when you're going fast. But it does remove a little bit of communication from the wheel, and more importantly, it removes like a predictability and honesty. When I drive the M3, I'm driving with the hood of the car. I'm just watching where that goes like a video game. With this, I feel like I'm driving it with the wheel. Weight distribution is 53% front, 47 rear, so it feels a little bit tail happy. It feels planted in the nose. And despite having front tires that are narrower than an xDrive M3, I don't feel like I'm wanting for grip. And that actually makes it a little calmer on the highway. It just tracks straight. It doesn't dive into every trough and rut that the highway presents. Look, I mean, the grip from these tires, 285 in the rear, is very good. Adaptive dampers, also pretty good. I say pretty good because over large bumps on the 405, it took 2 bounces to settle it. Granted, it was a very large bump. And when you put it in firm mode, you feel a big difference. There is a tangible difference between the soft, medium, and race shock settings. Got an LSD, steel Brembo brakes, and again, even though this is only 100 pounds lighter than that M3, it feels like 500 pounds lighter. I don't know how they did it. I really don't understand. This thing seems like the underdog, and where the M3 feels like it has been ratchet strapped to the road, it feels so locked down. I think some of that's the all-wheel drive, some of it is the suspension being really firm. This feels a little bit more like floaty. Not in a bad way, it just feels lighter on its feet. I don't get it. I love it. I don't get it, but I love it, which kind of describes most of the world. I don't understand most science, how rain falls, but it works. These are the standard seats, 8-way adjustable, deeply bolstered, doing a great job of holding me in. I went to the website last night and there were no options for additional seats because this is the last year of the Alfa Giulia Quad as we know it. There may be another one in the future, but if there is, it's going to be a hybrid or electrified somehow. So they're starting to pull options off the board. Dynamically, a lot of positives. But in terms of daily driving use, there are definitely some negatives. The screen is slow. The resolution looks 720. It's got a grain to it. Changing menus is a little bit confusing. When you reverse, the backup camera screen is about half this size. For some reason it shrinks. And again, the resolution is very bad. The screen is also kind of dark. Not easy to use. Thankfully, there is wired CarPlay. Otherwise, yeah. Gauges are clear. I like that. It's got deep blacks to it. Not a ton of options in here. You can't put the map in the gauges, but that's okay. Funny enough, the tach sweeps counterclockwise in all modes except track, where it goes back to normal. So it's like they know that race car drivers want the tach to always go the same direction, no matter what Aston Martin says. The interior is simple. They haven't really changed much in the last 9 years. I do like this exposed carbon fiber weave here instead of putting it under a layer of clear coat. It feels cool, looks cool. It'll probably be terrible to clean one day. God forbid you have children that eat saltines that's just gonna nest in there and you're gonna grow a whole new cracker. Because that's how the science of crackers work, right? You just put a cracker on the ground, it grows new crackers. It's amazing though. There's a lot of headroom here. There's a lot of seat room. There's a lot of rear seat room. I can sit behind myself. The car feels small when you drive it, but when you sit inside it, it doesn't. And there's a very charming thing as well. The forward collision warning, instead of being like some sort of glaring nuclear alarm sound, is 5 little beeps from a tiny horn. It sounds like you're about to step off the curb in Italy and a Fiat 500 is honking at you, telling you, get out of the way, I need to deliver this cheese. It goes beep, 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 beep. It's fun. Of course, an Alfa Romeo review wouldn't be complete without discussing reliability. However, despite seeming behind the times technologically, that may actually be a good thing. The J.D. Power Initial Quality Study asks owners to report not only things that broke, but features that seemed broken due to their complexity to operate. In 2023, Alfa won first place. That sound you just heard was 8 billion jaws hitting the floor. Alfa achieved this in part by reducing the number of combinations of options. In the Stelvio and the Giulia, they cut it down from literally hundreds of thousands to merely 2,000, which made quality go way up. However, surveys have their flaws, as does the relatively short timeline of 3 months, and JD Power is not known to be the end-all, be-all of data. Enter Consumer Reports, who is a lot less optimistic. They rank Alfa below all of its competitors in terms of expected reliability. I think we're in an era where cars are very complicated. Forced induction, while it is prevalent and is sort of a understood science, doesn't mean it is a sturdy science. Sure, Alfa's had problems long before turbochargers were everywhere. Maybe they were just ahead of the curve. Okay, yes, I'm being a bit of an apologist for the Alfa and its reputation. Because look at it. Look at it. This is one of the best looking four-doors I have ever seen in my life and that has ever existed across any decade. And to boot, it's fun to drive. It's not like the LC500, which is a lovely car to drive around on the highway, but once you get it in twisties, kind of falls apart. This delivers. This is what I want from a sport sedan. We can all get blinded by, looks and a good time. Repeatedly, it seems. When asked if people would buy an Alfa again, 62% said yes, a higher percentage than the owners of Cadillac CT5s, Acura TLXs, and Genesis G70s. But how many of us haven't pulled a Johnny Depp and overlooked glaring problems in the pursuit of beautiful excitement? We don't know what the future of Alfa is, but I'm glad we had them here for a while. Again.
And remember, always fight your tickets on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.